Key point 1, the rise of the anxious generation. This segment explores how rapid digital transformation, especially the rise of smartphones and social media, reshaped the emotional landscape of young people. It discusses how constant comparison, digital validation, and the pressure of curated perfection have rewired the way we think, feel, and connect. It highlights Jonathan Haidt's insight on how the shift from play-based childhoods to screen-based ones created a generation more anxious, less resilient, and disconnected from reality. Subscribe my channel. When we talk about the anxious generation, we're not pointing fingers, we're holding up a mirror. Because what we see today didn't happen in isolation. It's the result of years of quiet change, of habits that seemed harmless, even helpful, but slowly rewired the way we live, think, and feel. It began when technology stopped being a tool and started becoming a world, a place where we now spend more time than in our own reality. There was a time when children played outside until the street lights came on. When curiosity was something you explored with scraped knees and laughter, not a search bar. But somewhere along the way, we traded the playground for a touchscreen. We began to confuse connection with communication, attention with affection, and validation with worth. The world got louder, faster, and more demanding, and we didn't even notice that the quiet moments, the ones that build resilience and imagination, began to disappear. Jonathan Haidt calls this the Great Rewiring. It's not just technological, it's psychological. The constant notifications, the endless scroll, the comparison culture, it all reshaped how young people see themselves and the world. Every like became a micromeasure of value. Every post, a silent competition for approval. And while it might look like confidence on the surface, beneath it, there's exhaustion, anxiety that comes from never feeling enough. And let's be honest, this isn't just about the younger generation. It's all of us. We've built lives around instant access and endless information, but with that came an invisible cost, attention. The ability to sit still, to be present, to think deeply without reaching for distraction. We call it progress, but progress without balance leaves us drained, not developed. For the generation growing up in this, it's even more complex. They've never known a world without Wi-Fi, without filters, without the constant pulse of social feedback. And that means their self-worth often lives in the hands of strangers. The teenage years, once filled with exploration and discovery, have become years of performance, curated, polished, and filtered for approval. They are being shaped not by experience, but by exposure. And with that exposure comes pressure. Pressure to keep up, to fit in, to never fall behind. It's a pressure that whispers, "You're not doing enough," even when you're exhausted. It's a pressure that makes success feel like survival, and rest feel like guilt. And when you're constantly performing, constantly comparing, you lose something vital, the ability to simply be. There's something deeply human about imperfection, about trial and error, about the lessons we learn when we fail without an audience. But social media changed that. It turned every mistake into a moment that can be replayed, reshared, and relived. It stripped away the safety of private growth. And when every moment becomes public, the fear of judgment becomes constant. That fear breeds anxiety, and that. We live in a world where safety has become the highest virtue. We want to protect, to shelter, to make sure nothing ever hurts the people we love. And while that comes from a place of care, somewhere along the way, our pursuit of safety began to steal something essential, resilience. In our effort to remove every obstacle, every challenge, every uncomfortable emotion, we forgot that it's those very things that make us strong. We started telling our children to be careful instead of to be brave. We cleared the path ahead instead of letting them learn how to walk it. We built fences around their world, and in doing so, we took away the small freedoms that teach courage. What we called protection sometimes became a quiet form of fear. And fear, when disguised as care, limits growth. Jonathan Haidt speaks about this beautifully, how overprotection and safetyism have shaped a generation that feels fragile, not because they are weak, but because they've been denied the experiences that build strength. When a child never climbs a tree, they don't just miss the view, they miss the feeling of slipping, catching themselves, realizing they're capable. They miss the lessons that come from risk, the quiet confidence that only grows when we face something uncertain and come out okay. We've replaced scraped knees with sanitized hands, spontaneous adventures with scheduled routines. We've taught young people to avoid discomfort, instead of to manage it. But the truth is, growth doesn't happen in comfort, it happens just beyond it. Resilience isn't built in safety, it's built in struggle. And when we deny that struggle, we unintentionally create the very anxiety we're trying to protect them from. Because when you've never been allowed to fail, even small setbacks feel unbearable. When every emotion has been cushioned, every disappointment softened, the real world feels too sharp, too unpredictable. And that's when anxiety takes root, not from exposure to danger, but from the lack of exposure to it. We think we're keeping them safe, but we're keeping them untested. And untested strength can't sustain itself. It's time we start trusting young people with a little more life. Let them take a few falls, a few risks. Let them navigate friendships that aren't perfect, challenges that aren't easy, goals that don't come instantly. Because every small victory earned through struggle becomes a foundation for courage. Every failure survived becomes a quiet reminder that they can handle more than they think. We need to reintroduce the idea that pain isn't punishment, it's a teacher. That mistakes aren't shameful, they're evidence of effort. That success means nothing if it isn't rooted in persistence. Somewhere along the way, we became so focused on protecting emotional well-being that we forgot what actually builds it: experience. Children don't need to be shielded from every storm, they need to be taught how to stand in the rain. They need to see that fear doesn't mean STO. We live in an age that was meant to bring us closer, yet somehow, it's made us feel more distant. The promise of connection turned into a constant stream of noise, notifications, and distraction. Every spare moment, every quiet pause, has been filled with something to check, something to scroll, something to compare. And what we've lost in that process isn't just time, it's meaning. The kind of meaning that comes from being fully present, from listening deeply, from doing something not because it looks good, but because it feels right. Jonathan Haidt speaks about this loss not as a tragedy, but as a wake-up call. Because when a generation grows up surrounded by distraction, it becomes harder to find purpose. We've raised young people in a world where attention is the new currency, and everyone is competing for it. Social media feeds are designed to keep us scrolling, not thinking. They reward reaction, not reflection. And that constant cycle of stimulation leaves us craving more, but feeling less. It's no wonder so many people feel anxious, restless, and disconnected. When your mind is constantly pulled in 100 directions, when your attention is always divided, your soul starts to starve. You can have everything in front of you and still feel empty, because meaning doesn't come from what's on the screen, it comes from what's within. But to hear that inner voice, we need silence. To find clarity, we need stillness. And both have become rare in today's world. There's a quiet sadness in realizing that we've forgotten how to be alone without being lonely. The moment we feel discomfort, we reach for distraction. The second something feels uncertain, we scroll for reassurance. But every time we do that, we move further away from ourselves. We trade peace for stimulation, reflection for reaction. We become so focused on what others are doing that we forget what we actually want. And this isn't just a problem for the young, it's a mirror for all of us. How many times have we filled the silence with noise, simply because we're afraid of what we might feel if we stop? We think productivity means movement, but sometimes it means the courage to pause. The courage to ask deeper questions: what truly matters? What brings me joy? What kind of person am I becoming? We've built a world that celebrates visibility more than value. We've started measuring success by likes, not legacy. And yet, the people who truly inspire us, the ones who live with clarity and confidence, they aren't the ones chasing attention. They're the ones who have learned how to protect their focus. They've learned that meaning doesn't come from being seen by everyone, it comes from living in alignment with who you really are. If we want to reclaim meaning in this age of distraction, we have to start small. We have to create moments where our minds can breathe again. That might mean putting the phone down when we eat, walking without headphones, or writing our thoughts instead of posting th. When we talk about the anxious generation, it's easy to feel overwhelmed by everything that's gone wrong. The pressures, the distractions, the constant noise, it can feel like we've lost something that can't be regained. But the truth is, this story isn't one of despair. It's one of renewal. Because once we understand how we got here, we also begin to see how we can rise above it. And that begins with one simple, powerful word: resilience. Resilience isn't inherited. It's built, moment by moment, through challenge, through discomfort, through effort. It's not about pretending to be strong, it's about learning that you already are. And that's what this generation needs most, not more comfort, not more protection, but the confidence to trust themselves again. To know that they can face uncertainty and still move forward. We can't expect resilience to appear on its own. It grows when we create the right environment, one that encourages real connection, play, mentorship, and purpose. Jonathan Haidt reminds us that community is at the heart of human strength. We were never meant to face life alone, and yet, so many young people today are doing just that. They have digital followers but no mentors, endless communication but little guidance. What they need isn't another app, it's another hand, another voice reminding them they're capable of so much more than they realize. Rebuilding resilience starts with bringing people back together. It means reclaiming the spaces that once shaped character, the dinner table, the classroom, the park, the community center. It means slowing down enough to actually see one another again. The anxious generation doesn't need to be told to toughen up, they need to be shown that life's challenges aren't meant to crush them but to strengthen them. They need to witness adults who face setbacks with grace, who turn failure into learning, who speak honestly about struggle without shame. Because resilience isn't taught through lectures, it's modeled through living. We also have to rethink what success means. For too long, we've defined it by achievement, by status, by external validation. But real success is built on character, on discipline, empathy, curiosity, and the ability to keep going when things get hard. That's what we should be teaching. That's what will carry this generation forward long after the likes and trends fade away. We can help them rediscover joy in simple effort again, the pride of completing something that took time, the satisfaction of building something with their hands, the quiet strength that comes from persistence. Because those are the experiences that root you in confidence. Those are the moments that make you feel alive. The more we replace instant gratification with meaningful progress, the more grounded and fulfilled we become. And yes, rebuilding resilience also means facing discomfort. We have to get comfortable being uncomfortable again. Growth will never happen in a place of constant ease. It happens